Hey guys, Andrew Esquivel here, back with another review, and today I'm going to be reviewing a product courtesy of a company called YINENN. Now, these are specialized cooking gloves that you would use when you are either A, using a cast iron skillet, or B, you're cooking over an open flame like when you're using a grill or something like that. The point is, these are made from a specialized fiber that are resistant to temperatures just slightly above 900 degrees Fahrenheit. And they have these little red lines, which are made from a material that's a bit sticky, so it helps to keep your grip on various things. One thing to note, though, is this material is not waterproof, so if you're moving something like a boiling pot, you want to make sure whatever you're boiling doesn't get on the gloves, because it will seep straight through. But if it is a hot metal, or straight up fire even for that matter, yeah, these will help protect you up to a certain point. And I know this because I have a pair very similar, made from the same kind of material, from Grill Heat Aid. So I've got some experience using these kind of gloves. They are a bit bulky, you don't have much dexterity when working with them, but gosh darn it, my Grill Heat Aids have worked quite well. So this is the baseline in which I'm going to compare these ones with. Now, it is important to remind you that at the time of recording, YINENN only offers these in one size on Amazon, whereas with my Grill Heat Aids, they came in multiple sizes, and I wear extra large gloves, and those seem to fit relatively well. So, you know, just putting these on, I can tell you they were a little tight, but not to the point where I don't think I could use them. So, what I'm going to show you is something I don't really recommend you do at home, which is I'm going to put these gloves on, and I'm going to put them straight into the flame on my dual gas burner on my range. Now, I know for a fact the Grill Heat Aid will keep my hand protected, but will the YINENN? Let's find out. Now, I do a lot of cooking, and I just recently did some cooking, so yeah, my range is a little messy. Don't worry, that doesn't affect this test. Now, I'm going to need to establish a baseline, so we're doing that with the Grill Heat Aid here. This is a dual gas burner. These are really hot flames. But watch how well these actually work. Once again, please don't do this. And I'm fine. Now, sure, I can feel a little warm in my hand, but for a few seconds you can put your hand straight up in the fire with these things and it's not even breaking a sweat in terms of its performance. These have worked for me quite well. Now, will the YINENNs do as well? Time to watch YINENN put its money where its mouth is and see just how well this works here. Kind of going in. Just to show you I'm getting in all up in there. Yeah. Whew. Alright, so yeah. These will protect your hands from going into the flame just as well as the Grill Heat Aid did. So, we can turn this off. So yeah, the YINENNs did good with direct heat. Now, there's other things to consider because that is, quite frankly, an unrealistic test, but an excellent benchmark to show you that you can indeed put your trust in something like this and know that it is not a fraud. Because the last thing you want is to get something that's supposed to protect your hands, only to find out that it doesn't protect your hands. So just exposing it to that kind of heat like that seemed to have discolored it, or maybe just straight up removed whatever dye they used to dye these in. My Grill Heat Aids are a natural color to its fiber, so there's nothing that's going to discolor it. These do. You know, I don't know if that's the wisest idea to make these dyed, given the fact that they're going to come in contact with super hot surfaces. But for what it's worth, it does protect your hand. Now, obviously, there's more to testing this glove than simply putting it in a fire. There's things like, how long can it protect your hand against something that's really, really hot? Because let's face it, If you got a dining room that's outside of your kitchen, you're going to need to move some pots and pans from each room. So, what better hot piece of metal to pick up than the iron grates that cover my range? So, I'm heating them all up right now, and they're going to get pretty spanking hot. And I'm going to pick them up, one with my grill heat aid and one with the YINENN. I'm going to see how long I can kind of hold it in my hand before I decide, you know what, it's probably about time to put it down. Now, I'm not going to do it in so long to where I feel like I'm going to injure myself. That would just be silly. But considering I don't have, or at least I can't find, my cast iron skillet, this stuff is going to get pretty hot too. So I feel in all relativeness that it should be pretty close. So I've been heating up these pieces of metal for a little while. Let's go ahead and pick these up, huh? Now this piece of metal, I don't have one of those little thermal monitors that I can just point at it and see the temperature, but I assure you this thing is scalding hot. You wouldn't want to put it directly on any part of your skin, which is why they have these forearm covers, because when you're grabbing something deep, like let's say from inside the oven, you don't want to hit the side of the oven and hurt your hand or wrist or forearm in this case. So having forearm protection is good. Okay, so I held that for a relatively decent amount of time, and it didn't really feel like it was getting through. It didn't seem like it was hot enough to really feel like I needed to worry about it. Let's put on the YINENN and see if I can do the same thing. In fact, let's go a little harder. Let's go on the dual burner and see. Now for consistency, this is the same glove that I used in the first test, putting it directly in the flame. It's had some time to cool down. Let's kind of just pick this up here. And it is definitely a very hot piece of metal. I can feel the heat coming through a little bit. I would say that this side was definitely hotter than that side, but that's probably because of the dual burner. Now, how hot it got on the inside, I felt the grill heat aid did better, because I could definitely feel it around the portions of my finger here, my index finger, of where I was gripping. So, let's turn these off. No need for keeping those on and wasting gas. How well did this perform? Well, they're made of the same material, but I think these are not as thick as my grill heat aids, which is not bad, but not good at the same time, because here's the dealio. The thicker the material is, the longer you're going to be able to hold something that was scalding hot. But if you need dexterity for something that's not going to be as blatantly hot as that test I did right there, these should work perfectly fine. If dexterity is important to you, let's say you're working on the grill and you're getting those steaks nice and tender, and you're using utensils back and forth with these on, the YINENNs, considering they're a little more form-fitting, probably would be a better choice. But if you have to carry something that is heavy and really, really hot, you're going to want the thickness and sacrifice a little bit of dexterity. So I would say my grill heat aids would do better in that department. Overall, there's really not much else to test. They protect you against heat, and I just did some pretty decent baselines, I feel. Heat is kind of a radiating situation where you can touch something at first and you'd be completely fine. But the longer you hold it, the more and more the heat starts to seep through. See, I just held my hand there, and for the first few seconds, you couldn't feel anything. And then the heat radiated its way through, and now I can definitely feel it on my palm. If I didn't remove my hand from that, it would continue to get hotter and hotter. And these sorts of materials, they do kind of retain the heat for just a little bit. Because they insulate so well, they insulate on the inside all the way through. So if the heat gets to that point where it's all the way through, it's going to remain hot. So you're going to want to be able to pull these off immediately if something you're holding is just quite simply too hot, which is why I think if they were thicker, you'd be able to use them longer and they'd be more practical in that sense. I don't think dexterity is your main purpose for something like this, honestly. So they're good. They're not great, but they are good. Now that I've got the gloves off, we can kind of take a look at my hand here. Now, right here on my index finger is where the brunt of the heat was absorbed from the YINENN gloves when I picked up the metal grate on the dual burner side. And it got through pretty quick, which is why I bring up the issue of thickness. Now, both my grill heat aids and the YINENNs are made from the same kind of material. The difference is, the thicker the material, the longer you're going to have before the heat radiates through the material and then gets to your hand. When it does get to your hand, you'll start to notice it pretty darn quick. And that's not a situation you want to be in. But that being said, there's other things to think about. If you're going with the YINENNs because of the black and red aesthetic versus the white and blue, you really got to think about this material discoloring on you and if that's really important to you. Yes, okay, these fit a little more tightly because they really only come in one size. So if your hands are small, you might have to pass up these and go for something like the grill heat aids that come in a small. If your hands are extra large like mine, yeah, they fit. They are a little tight though. They also don't come in various cuff sizes here. The grill heat aids do come in various lengths on the cuff depending on how far up the arm you want them to come. Because it is important to cover as much of your arm as you can. That being said, depending on your situation and what you're using them for, ultimately dictates how much cuff length you need. Cuff length really comes into play when you're pulling stuff out of the oven, because the last thing you need is to pull a big pot where you don't have a lot of room to get in between you and the oven and then touch your forearm on the inside of the oven and burn yourself. That would be no fun. Now, do I think these are good for the price? I think they're okay. 4 out of 5 stars for sure. My grill heat aids, definitely 5 out of 5. You know, I've put these things through figuratively hell and back. And I've done kind of the same tests that I would normally do with these, with the grill heat aids. So, was it a wise idea to put my hand directly into a fire? No, but here's the thing. I knew that it would be fine because this is the same type of fiber as my grill heat aids. So, I didn't have any ill effects from that. When I was holding the metal grate, like I said, I definitely felt it radiating through a lot faster than I did with the grill heat aids. So, take your pick. If you need dexterity, go with the YINENN. If you need longevity in terms of how long you can hold something that's really hot, go with the grill heat aids. Both have pros and cons. I prefer this, but there's a good reason why you would go with these. If you're working with utensils a lot while you have these on, the YINENNs are the better option because they're a little thinner. They do still provide an adequate amount of protection, but you just need to know its limitations. So, with all that being said, I hope the review has been helpful. If you're viewing this on Amazon, please give me a thumbs up if you thought this was informative. If you're viewing it on YouTube, do the same for me, please. I'll share the love. And check out my other videos. I got plenty of them. As always, I will see you next time. Stay safe.